in speaking to students recently, I spoke about how it's incumbent upon us to seek for truth. And in the same way that, you're sitting around a friend's kitchen table and somebody says, "Oh, did you hear about him and what he did?" Are you going to just accept that as fact? Are you going to ask the person, "How do you know that? Are you sure about that?" And do you pass that information on? Do you add to the rumor mill? Do you add to gossip? And in the same way, at the moment online, there's a lot of information being bandied around, and not all of it is true, and some of it is very difficult to sift through. And I think the only thing we can do, and I think, especially if we're going to train to be priestesses, or we're already ordained as priestesses, we absolutely have to, for our honour, we absolutely have to comb through everything, check sources, check facts, check who originally posted, and be able to stand over anything that we are responsible for forwarding into the wider community. So let's come back to our ancestors. Let's come back to Cormac and the cup and the silver branch. And how did he come to have them? So I really think everybody should read this story, because there's so much in it, and there's so much to kind of take from it on so many different levels, quite apart from just the mythological input. Cormac MacArt was a wise and a good king in the royal house of Tara. And one day, he's approached by a stranger, and the stranger is carrying this most amazing, magnificent implement, a silver branch, and on it, 9 golden apples ringing out, making the most beautiful, enchanting sound. And none who could hear this sound could hold sorrow or worry in their hearts. And Cormac is absolutely struck by the beauty and the magic of this tool. And so he speaks to the stranger and asks him where he comes from, and tells him he would give much to have such a wonderful implement. And the stranger offers it to Cormac. Have it, it's yours. But I would ask 3 gifts from you in return. And Cormac says, anything. I'm a king, I have many riches, I have gold, jewels, cattle. You may have whatever you want. And so the stranger says, well, I won't take anything now. I'll come back and I'll claim my prizes when I return. And so in the year that follows, Cormac uses the silver branch to gather the people together in song, in the sharing of bardic expression, to lift pain and sorrow and grief. And all are absolutely amazed at this wondrous gift. When the year passes, the stranger returns and he said, I've come to claim my prize. And Cormac says, of course, whatever, name it. And he says, I've come for your daughter. Cormac had not expected this. And suddenly this chill comes over him, this dawning realization that he has done an incredibly foolish thing. He's made an open-ended promise without actually knowing or defining what it is that he has promised. And that's something we all need to think about. Obviously he protests, but it's pointed out to him that as a king, his word is his bond. He is honour bound to keep his word. And so with great grief, he sees his daughter leave with the stranger. And sorrow settles into his heart, and his wife and his son and the entire household are grieving. But let us not forget the silver branch, which lifts all And maybe we need to reflect on whether that is a good thing. For we need at times to experience the emotion within us, to experience the emotions that loss and grief brings to us, and not to anesthetize them or repress them. But so it is at Tara. And a month passes by, and now the stranger returns again, and he says, I have come for my second prize. This time Cormac is a little more wary, of course, and his heart breaks again when the stranger says, this time I will take your son. And Cormac says, please, you have my daughter, please do not take my son. But the stranger insists, your word is your bond, you are king. And so he takes the son away. And another month passes by, and the stranger returns for the third time. And of course, during this time, despite the initial grief and sorrow, again, Cormac has used the silver branch to dispel all pain, all grief, all sadness. But on this third occasion, the stranger says, I have come this time for your wife, Ethna. And Cormac says, no, this is my whole family. You've taken my daughter, you've taken my son, please, anything else. But the stranger says, your word is your bond, you are the king. And so he takes Ethna away. But this time Cormac knows that no silver branch, nothing is worth the loss of his entire family. He cannot bear it. And so instead of dispelling his grief and his sadness with the shake of the silver branch, he takes the branch and he follows the stranger and Ethna. And they move into strange lands, for they have journeyed to the other world, to the land of promise, which is where the stranger has come from. And there, and I urge you to read this in detail, Cormac comes across many strange sights. A dune, a beautiful dune, where a group of young men are trying to thatch the roof with the wings of white birds. But of course the wind catches the wings and carries them away. And he almost gets so distracted by this vision of strangeness that he loses sight of the stranger and his wife. But he realizes that this is something he doesn't understand. He doesn't know what it's trying to tell him. And so he catches himself, gathers himself together, and he hurries on. Then he comes to another dune, where a young man is burning a great oak tree in a fire pit. He leaves it burning as he goes to get another one, and when he returns, the first one is completely burned, and so he starts all over again. And so again, Cormac is watching this strange sight, and he doesn't know what to make of it. He doesn't know how to interpret it, so he moves on. He comes to where a well stands, a beautiful well, and 5 streams flow from it out in 5 directions. And about the well are 9 hazel trees, dropping their nuts into the streams, feeding salmon, who then let the husks float on down the stream. And he marvels at this, for it is something very special. And yet he doesn't fully know what it is. And he comes now to where he sees a beautiful couple, a man and a woman of fine features and noble demeanour. And they welcome him. And as they are speaking, a third person approaches. A man carrying a pig, bringing it for a feast. And so the cooking pot is set up, and Cormac is told that there is a magical method for the cooking of this pig. It can be cooked only in quarters, and each quarter will cook only when a true story is told. So each of the other three, the beautiful master of the house and the woman and the man carrying the pig, tell strange tales, which are true, for with the telling of each, 1/4 of the pig is cooked. And now it is Cormac's turn, and he tells his tale of the stranger who came with this magical tool which could lift sorrow and pain from all hearts, and of the taking away of his daughter, his son, his beloved wife, of how his heart is grieving and sore with the loss, of how he has followed the stranger into this land so that he may hand back this gift, for magical and precious as it is not worth the loss of his loved ones, of his family. And now Cormac is invited to feast with the beautiful couple. And he finds it strange to sit with so few people because he is so used to the feasting hall at Tara and all the host gathered around. And he says this, and then he falls into an enchanted sleep, and when he wakes he is seated in a great hall, and the master of the house and the woman are seated at the top of the table, and beside them he spies his own wife, his son and his daughter. He expresses amazement, and he looks at the master of the house and he realizes, you are Manannán, for none else could have these gifts. And Manannán says, yes, and I have brought you here, for I wish to make your friendship, I wish to teach you, and I wish you to know discernment and right judgment. And beside Manannán there is a cup which he now raises. And Cormac wonders at this strange and beautiful cup, at the strange markings on it, at the gleaming gold upon it. And Manannán notices his interest and said, yes, and there is something yet stranger about this cup, for this is the cup of truth. And when there are falsehoods spoken beneath this cup, it will break apart. And when truths are spoken, it will repair and become whole. And he tells Cormac now that in all the time that his wife, daughter and son have been in the land of promise, in Manannán's household, they have been safe and unharmed. And Cormac holds out the silver branch and he says, take this. I've come this way, all this way, to find you. I did not know who you were, now I do. But please, whatever test this was, take this back. It is not worth what you asked in exchange. My family are the most precious gift I have, and no silver branch, no magical enchanted sound can dispel the sorrow I feel at the loss of those I love the most. I know now what is most of value to me. Please take this back and give me my family. And Manannán says, keep the branch and take this cup. You have earned them. I drew you here that you would know these lessons. And from now on, you shall make rightful judgments and use this cup to discern truth from falsehood. Use the silver branch wisely to call tribe and family together. Gatherings of music, of song and of poetry. Do not use it to dispel sorrow that must be felt at times, but you may use it to bring peace and calm. And your family are free to go with you. And know that you will be a wise king, and these gifts will assist you, but they are with you and you only, for the duration of your physical lifetime. And when you come to your physical end, they will return to me. Cormac thanks him, and next he knows, he awakens on the grass outside the palace of Tara, and beside him are his family, his wife, his son, his daughter, and the cup and the silver branch. And it is said that ever after, Cormac MacArt ruled with rightful judgment, with true discernment, and was a wise and just king. And as Manannán had foretold, at the end of his life, the cup and the silver branch went from him back into the other world. And so ends our tale, my retelling of Cormac, and I think there is so much food for thought in all of that. The need to experience grief and sorrow as much as we need to experience joy and love. And the need to discern, the need to know what is of value, and not to make promises without knowing what they might cost. So that's Cormac's and Manannán's lesson to us.